So, Kiss of Life messed up big time. I'm honestly very disappointed, and so is the rest of the Kiss of Life fandom, especially Black fans. As a Black person myself, I do not know how to feel or comprehend this, especially since I was a fan of them. I supported them since their debut and had high hopes for them in the future, and now here I am considering removing their songs from my Spotify playlist. To say I'm appalled would be an understatement. To see that a group with so much potential decided to go on live, wearing stereotypical clothing and mocking my people and culture is heartbreaking. It wasn't just a poor choice, it was a blatant display of ignorance and disrespect. When you come from a community that has been historically mocked, stereotyped, and appropriated, watching a group you once rooted for turn around and treat your culture like a costume or joke is a deep kind of betrayal. The group made a conscious decision to wear those outfits, go on live, and laugh like it was funny, and what made it worse was that the members knew what they were doing. Literally before the live started, Belle posted on Bubble asking us to not leave the fandom after watching the live, which tells us that they knew what they were doing was wrong, yet they still decided to go with it anyway. They do not care. And the half-assed apology from the company and the members continuing on their day posting on Instagram is just the cherry on top on the fuck you ice cream. Not to mention that two of the members, Belle and Julie, both lived in America at some point. Julie for 13 years and Belle for 8, so these two definitely knew better, Julie in particular, as before this, she got into hot water for saying the N-word, and she issued an apology. So, to see her doing this years later, after that whole thing is sick. This shows that she has not learned anything from that, and the apology was to simply save face rather than take real accountability. It's giving "I'm sorry I got caught," not "I'm sorry I hurt people," and that's what's so exhausting. How many times do Black fans have to express pain, frustration, and disappointment before we're actually heard? We shouldn't have to keep reminding idols, especially ones who've grown up in Western culture, what is and isn't appropriate when it comes to Blackness. What hurts even more is how quick non-Black people are to defend them, dismissing the outrage as overreacting or cancel culture, when this isn't about canceling anyone, it's about accountability, it's about respect. It's about being tired of seeing our culture used as an aesthetic while our pain is overlooked. It's about holding people we support to a higher standard because if we don't speak up, who will? Those 200,000 plus followers that were lost were deserved. They just ruined their careers just by this one incident, and I honestly don't see how they can come back from this. They are done for. So update, Kiss of Life released a handwritten apology letter addressed to their fans. While on the surface, it might look sincere, but if you read between the lines and compare it to what actually happened, it feels more performative than genuine. To start off, the line "we realize now that our content was culturally insensitive" is the biggest red flag. They didn't just now realize something was wrong when one of the members, Belle, literally, posted on Bubble before the live stream started promising fans not to unstand them after the live. That right there tells us all we need to know. They knew exactly what they were doing was inappropriate before it even happened, and they did it anyway. So this whole "we realize now" narrative, it's dishonest. It's not accountability, it damage control. Second, they never directly named what they did. They don't mention the cultural appropriation. They don't say, "we dressed in stereotypical clothing and mocked Black people." They just call it content and vaguely label it culturally insensitive. That's a textbook PR move to avoid truly naming the harm. Third, they go on to talk about how hard it's been for them, how they seemed calm on the outside, and how this letter was hard to write. Like, no, this isn't about your discomfort. The real pain was felt by Black fans who saw their culture turned into a costume and a joke. Stop centering yourselves. The rest of the letter is just full of empty promises. We'll do better, we'll educate ourselves, we'll show our sincerity through our actions. I've heard it all before. And the fact that this is Julie's second time doing something offensive involving Black culture after her N-word incident proves that these lessons clearly aren't sticking. It's not giving growth, it's giving "I'm sorry we got caught" again. The handwritten format? Cute, I guess. But a handwritten letter means nothing when the words in it don't reflect real accountability. They just want to smooth things over and move on, and I'm not letting that happen. Not when Black fans are still hurting, not when this is part of a bigger pattern in the K-pop industry. In the end, this letter feels like a calculated attempt to patch things up without owning the full weight of what they did. It lacks specificity, ignores key context like Bell's pre-live comment, and uses classic PR language to soften their actions. It might work for casual fans or people not deeply affected by the issue, but for Black fans who saw and felt the disrespect firsthand, it doesn't feel sincere, not even close. Also, I need to address some things that has been bothering me. Ever since the controversy came out, I've seen people saying things like, is it okay to say that I never liked Kiss of Life? Or I think it's safe to say I never liked Kiss of Life. And look, I get that not everyone was a fan. That's fine. But like, what are you trying to gain from that? A gold star? A pat on the back? To insert that into this conversation feels performative at best and dismissive at worst. This situation isn't about music preferences, it's about cultural appropriation and the very real harm and betrayal too. The people who had supported the group had their cultures disrespected. People who actually cared about the group are hurting, and you're using that to flex that your music taste didn't include them? Using a serious moment to validate your personal opinions or act like you were right all along does nothing to help the conversation. It shifts the focus away from the people actually hurt and centers yourself instead. Being indifferent or distant from the situation doesn't make you morally superior, it just makes it clear you were never invested in the community or the issue in the first place and are using the situation as a gotcha moment. This isn't the time for I told you so. This is the time to uplift Black voices, hold artists accountable, and have real conversations about how often our culture is disrespected in this industry. So if your only contribution is that you never liked them to begin with, maybe sit this one out. Another thing that has been bothering me is the misinformation that has been spread about this incident. And I think it's important to clear it up. Some people have been claiming that the food on the table during the live stream was soul food, when in reality, it was Thai food. Let me be clear, this doesn't excuse or downplay what Kiss of Life did. They absolutely deserve the backlash for their actions, and I stand by that. What I don't support is people twisting facts or spreading false information to add fuel to the fire. That's not necessary, and it only hurts the legitimacy of the conversation we're trying to have. During the live stream, the members themselves mentioned that the food was Thai and even named the specific dishes.
Today's menu. 오늘의 메뉴는 다 소개해주세요, 생일자님. Mango sticky rice, 똥냥꿍, pad thai, fried rice, acai bowl, and fruits.
So while there's plenty to call them out for, and rightfully so, we need to make sure we're doing it based on the truth. The moment we start spreading misinformation, even unintentionally, it gives people an excuse to discredit the real issues at hand, and that's the last thing we need. Also, there's been this ongoing argument where some people still insist the Thai food on the table was presented in a way that resembled soul food. I've seen comments like, that still doesn't excuse how it looks like soul food, and honestly, that line of thinking really doesn't sit right with me, because what exactly does looking like soul food even mean? Are we now labeling certain colors, textures, or plating styles as inherently belonging to one culture? Because if we're not careful, that ends up reinforcing a very narrow, and sometimes racially biased, view of what foods are allowed to look like. Let's break it down. The collard greens people were pointing at, that was stir-fried morning glory, a common Thai vegetable dish. And the so-called cornbread, that was either mango sticky rice or crispy pork belly, whatever these two pictures people are looking at. These are traditional Thai foods, not some imitation or mock-up of Black cuisine. So when people ask, well, why does it resemble soul food then? It's worth asking if the issue is really about resemblance, or about people projecting assumptions based on limited cultural knowledge. Again, this isn't me defending Kiss of Life. They absolutely deserve to be called out for what they did. But I genuinely find it confusing, and honestly a little strange, when people say things like, well, why does it look like soul food? That kind of question makes me pause, because what does that even mean? Are we really at a point where certain foods looking a certain way automatically implies cultural intent or appropriation? Thai cuisine and soul food are two very different things, with their own rich histories and unique ingredients. Just because a dish is green or yellow or served in a certain way doesn't mean it's trying to mimic another culture's cuisine. Food doesn't have to pass some kind of aesthetic purity test to be valid. So when people ask that, it feels like they're reaching for something that just isn't there, and in doing so, they muddy the waters of a conversation that should be focused on actual appropriation, actual disrespect, and actual harm. Let's hold people accountable for what they really did, not for what we've assumed or projected onto the situation. Unfortunately, This isn't nothing new. The internet has a habit of turning serious situations into a whirlwind of confusion and misinformation. Every time someone is accused or exposed, there's always a wave of false narratives, half-truths, and exaggerated claims that start circulating. I've personally seen this happen multiple times, with 3 different people, but that's a video for another day. So, as we continue having these conversations, I just want to stress the importance of being informed, being intentional, and being fair, because accountability doesn't require exaggeration. The truth, on its own, is more than enough. What Kiss of Life did was already harmful. What their apology lacked was already glaring. We don't need to inflate the situation. We just need to tell it like it is. At the end of the day, Black fans deserve more than performative apologies and vague promises. We deserve respect. We deserve to be heard, not just when outrage is trending, but consistently. And that goes for the entire K-pop industry. This isn't a one-group problem. This is a recurring issue, and people are tired. Tired of seeing their culture worn like a costume. Tired of being the butt of the joke. Tired of being gaslit when they speak up, and tired of having to defend their anger in the face of blatant disrespect. To those who are still excusing what happened or trying to downplay the backlash, ask yourself why you're so quick to protect idols at the expense of real people's feelings. Why is your first instinct to dismiss the hurt rather than acknowledge it? Why do you only care when it's convenient for your stand card? To Black fans who are hurting right now, you're not overreacting. You're not too sensitive. Your feelings are valid. Your culture matters, and you're allowed to take a step back, or even walk away completely. Protect your peace. Don't let anyone guilt you into staying in a fandom that no longer feels safe or respectful. And to the industry as a whole, do better. Start investing in actual education. Start hiring cultural consultants. Start listening when people speak, not just after you start losing followers or something. Because apologies that only come after the damage is done, they're not apologies, they're PR cleanup jobs. Anyway, those are my thoughts. Like I said earlier, I've seen this kind of thing happen more than once, and honestly, I have a lot more to say on the broader pattern of racism and appropriation in K-pop, but that's a deep dive for another video. For now, I just hope this situation sparks some much-needed conversations, not just among fans, but within the industry itself. Thanks for listening. Stay safe, stay informed, and most importantly, stay loud.